and welcome to another edition of the One Team We Agree On. I'm Jillian.
I'm Kyle. How are you doing today?
Doing great, but how about this heat?
It is very hot.
Why we opted for tank tops, right?
Exactly. So on today's show, I got a very special guest we wanted to bring on. We met him, I think, for the first time at the Pachuca friendly last year. He was sitting right in front of us, and we got talking during the game, and we had interacted before on Twitter, and just kind of developed just a back and forth social media connection. Someone at the Sons of Ben tailgates. We've
Mhm.
interacted Jimmy before many times, and so when we created the show, the one first things I said is we gotta get Jimmy on. I made a 5 or 6 guest list of like people that I've interacted on Union Twitter, which, as we all know, is sometimes great, sometimes it's not great. But Jimmy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you both for having me on. It's been a pleasure knowing you guys over the last I guess over just about a year now.
Yeah.
But I think we've followed each other on Twitter for a little bit longer than that. And I actually think that you guys were maybe one of the first people that I had kind of followed on Twitter for a while that I started building a consistent rapport with at tailgates and stuff. So it's
Mhm.
good to always talk to you guys, and it's good to come on the show. I've been a listener for a while, and I try to support everyone that does any sort of independent or not independent content creation around the union and MLS as a whole. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here, and thank you guys for having me on.
And we're happy to have you. And it's funny. I mean, look at us, look at you. I mean, now we're all kind of covering the union. It's like at the end of the day, yes, we're covering you. We're showing the love to people that are following this team. But at the end of the day, you, I, Jillian, we're all fans too. And I think that's something that, this isn't just a 9 to 5 job for us. This is like a passion
Mhm.
project. And I think there's something because I know in the Dolphins community, I know in the Eagles community, you have a lot of these content creators too. And so I think anytime you have this, that's what really builds a strong fan base, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
I think one of the greatest things about the kind of accessibility to new technology and how easy it is to kind of set up an operation like this is that you have more passionate people covering the teams that they love, right?
Mhm.
yeah,
Whereas in the past you may have just had whichever writer who was living in Philly at the time because you went to school there covering the MLS team when he really wanted to be covering the Eagles, and he doesn't really know much about the union. I'm not saying that's anyone in particular, but that's definitely happened in union history and the league history as a whole. That's just kind of how it was at the beginning when MLS was coming up. It's still relatively a young league in comparison to the other major sports in the country, but like I said, with that accessibility to being able to set up operations like this, passionate people can cover the team and put their voice through. And I think the more people doing it, the better. And the more people doing it, the more voices outside of the circles we already exist in are going to start paying attention to MLS and the teams that we cover.
absolutely. I could not say it any better. So before we get started on the show, what are we wearing today, Jillian?
All right. Well, I kind of followed your lead a little bit with wearing a tank top. So this is one of the first things I actually got at a Union game. So it's the kind of white Union tank top that ties in the back and super comfy. So one of my favorite things. And I don't wear a lot of white, but when I have a tan, absolutely. So I figured it is time. I've been out in the sun a lot. So, and how about you, Kyle?
And I am wearing the training kit cut off. I was as you know, obsessed with Choo Choo and Bueno Brujo, wearing this bad boy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um so I've always liked the cutoff top, especially when
Mm-hmm.
those guys wear it. And For me, just working out sometimes it's a real light, especially in the summer, working out with clients, etc. in my real job. It's a nice thing to have. And plus, we're supporting the badge, getting people in. Hey, what team is this? Oh, this is an MLS team. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jimmy, what are you wearing today?
Well, I got the new kit on this year.
All
I
right.
felt like I'm kind of like you guys, where I don't like to switch up what I'm wearing at games, especially if things are going well. So I felt like I haven't been able to give this jersey enough love this year. And I don't.
Hmm.
It's not my favorite jersey, but it's not my. I don't dislike it at all.
Right.
So when I was going kind of over through my collection of what I could wear tonight, I said, you know what, this is a perfect opportunity. I haven't really had a good chance to wear this, so I threw this one on, and then I have this old Union hat that I got on Fanatics on like clearance a couple years ago for like $8.
Nice.
Hmm.
And I just wear it everywhere. It's absolutely disgusting and old and could probably use a wash, but yeah, I love it. I don't know, and it fits me well, so I keep rocking it for now.
Nice,
Nice.
nice.
Yeah, I like that kit too. Like I haven't really gotten to wear it too much because I wear my Lucky Unity top every game, but I wore it to school actually a few times. When we'd have like a dress down day, teacher dress down day, and one of my students actually, who's a Union fan, wore his on that day too. Like out of
Nice.
coincidence, which was great. I'm like, oh, I made sure I got a picture. It was funny, but yeah, it's a nice kit. And I think like at first I was just like, okay. And then it kind of grew on me though. I actually like it a lot. So
You
It did,
know,
and I don't know. Sorry, I was gonna say I don't know if you feel this way as well, but I kind of felt that way about the Lightning kits at first too. It wasn't like
mhm.
my favorite. I didn't dislike it. And maybe it was just like the run we went on wearing that kit and being at away games, seeing them wear that kit. But at the end of the day, it ended up being one of my favorite kits in all of sports. So yeah, I don't know. I'm hopeful for this one as well. Maybe we can have a really good memory in this kit, and it can be one of my favorites at the end of the day too.
I hope so. I mean, I was kind of sad that our last game in the Lightning kit had to be losing the MLS Cup, but it is what it
Yeah,
is.
it is what it is.
Because
So
that is such a sweet kit.
but anyway, before we get started here, make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the One Team We Agree On. That's all one word. And then you can follow us on Twitter at TOTWAG. And then we're also on Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. And you can follow the show. Make sure to like, subscribe, show us some love. And
We are not on threads.
we're not on threads yet.
The only threads that I'm concerned with are the ones in my sewing machine.
Right?
I got enough social media to deal with.
Yeah. So Jimmy, the first question, when we shared the press room at the, I guess it was the Sporting KC game when we were all in the torrential downpour, and you were below in
Mhm.
the where were you? You were in the tunnel.
I was under I was under the river end in the tunnel there trying to stay dry.
And you shared a story about how you got into soccer, how you got into union. So love to hear that story, and then just just growing up, how you got into soccer in general.
yeah. I mean, growing up, I was always into sports. Soccer was one of the first sports I got into. I think, like a lot of kids, it's one of the first outdoor sports that isn't as aggressive as football. You start playing soccer a little bit earlier. So I think it was like baseball and soccer were probably my first two sports that I was really playing organized.
Mhm.
And I don't think I loved soccer as much as I did other sports at first. But growing up, I had a friend, one of my best friends, who really loved it, and he kind of just took me under his wing in middle school and said, like, "No, you're not going to play football anymore. You're going to play soccer." And so from then on, it's kind of always been soccer is one of my favorite sports. And I grew up in upstate New York, but in ninth grade, my mom was going through some health issues, and I was kind of acting out a little bit. So on some like Fresh Prince of Bel Air type stuff. My parents sent me out to Salt Lake City, Utah, to live with my aunt to kind of chill out, let my mom like recoup and get better. And I lived like half a mile or maybe a mile at most away from where Real Salt Lake was building their new stadium at the time. And so it opened, I believe, the same year that I lived there, which I think was um, 2008 or 2009. Um, and at, I was already in love with soccer. My team back home in New York was one of the better teams in the state, so I was very excited for this team to be so close to me because I grew up in upstate New York where there was no sort of professional sports around me, and so my little cousin, he played in one of the youth programs in Salt Lake City, and he needed a chaperone to go to a game that his like team had or whatever. And I was excited to be his chaperone. And we went and we sat way up in the second tier for the first half. It was a 0-0 game against the Revolution. And being that bad kid that I was, I took my like 8-year-old cousin. I was like, we're gonna sneak like right behind the goal. And we did. We like went up there, and he was like super nervous. And when we got to the steward, I was like, "Oh, my parents are like right up there. It's the guy with the hat on." And he like led us right down there. And I'll never forget this. Real Salt Lake scored 6 goals in the second half right in front of us.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like a really formative moment for me, as far as like, wow, this league is cool. Like this is fun. And it was in their brand new stadium. The fans were going crazy, and yeah, that was kind of my like fandom or my start of fandom into MLS in general. And so I moved back to New York, and I eventually moved down to New York City, but I did not like either NYC, FC, or Red Bull. And so I was just kind of watching the league from afar at this point, and not really like in one team or another. I rooted for Real Salt Lake, but not being there and not being able to watch the games locally, being back in New York at that time, it was hard to really root for them. So when I moved to Philadelphia right before 2000, I was like 2019. It was just like the perfect opportunity to just like dive in and feel like I had a team that I could actually call my own for the first time, knowing that I was going to be here long term and actually have money to go to games and not be a nine or a ninth grader sneaking down to the front row and all that sorts of stuff. So that was my introduction into being a Philly fan in any sport because I had watched other teams in every other sport, but MLS, like I said, I was kind of just watching from afar. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun. I am relatively new to the team in its long history, but I'm happy to be here, and I just take it in as much as I can for every moment that I have.
No, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's a lot of new fans, and no matter whether you're, from the beginning in Sons of Ben or heck, 2022, 2023, as long as you're a passionate fan, I think that speaks volume. I think there's this place for everybody here, old and new, and it doesn't matter. But I think you, myself, Jillian, and others, as we become new fans, we've also embraced the old guard. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's important too.
Yeah,
The history.
absolutely.
And I think that's what you're seeing. I see a lot of that with a lot of the new fans. They're learning about the history of the union. And I think because you don't see that with every other sport. You don't.
No.
You don't. It's you show up and it's like, hey, I'm a we see it with a lot in Dolphins community. Hey, I'm a Dolphins fan. Yeah, I know. And it's like, oh, are you just brand new, or you've been following the team like me since '85? No, I think for me personally, what really impressed me, people are engaged. They want to learn about this team. They want to learn about MLS, and for better or worse, I think that is a good thing. I think it's more for the better personally, but
Yeah.
question, a follow-up there. so one of the stadiums we want to go to
Yeah, I'm glad you
is
brought this up. I was wanting
Real
to.
Salt Lake. And, you know, what is that stadium like?
So it's interesting. I'm sure that the surrounding area is much different now than it was in 2009 when I was living there.
Mhm.
As most of Philadelphia is much different now than it was in 2009. But it's not directly in the middle of the city, but it is in the valley of Salt Lake. So it is in a pretty busy part of the Salt Lake area, and it's got a lot of like it's got a lot of like shopping centers and restaurants and stuff nearby. So it's got a lot of stuff that you can do during the daytime to fill your time with it. It's not like some of the stadiums where they're kind of out on the outskirts of town and you kind of have to play on your trip around what's around the stadium and not so much what's in the city. So it's a pretty nice stadium. There's, from what I remember, again, it was so long ago at this point, and I only went once. There wasn't too many frills to it. It was pretty basic, kind of like Subaru Park. But I think that's kind of what made it beautiful too. There doesn't need to be a lot of frills and sparkle to make a stadium good. And it's anywhere in the valley of Salt Lake is going to be beautiful with the mountains. So yeah, it's a nice stadium overall.
Nice. Yeah, because that is definitely one of our goals. We want to get there. We've been to Utah, but not Salt Lake City. But we've driven up from staying in Vegas. We've gone to Bryce Canyon. We've gone to Zion a couple
Okay,
of
yeah,
times. We've been in that region,
I've
and
been to
it's just,
Monument.
yeah, I mean, but we love it. It's such a beautiful state. So, yeah, we definitely
yeah.
want to get out there and see a game
Utah's
too.
Yeah, Utah's incredible because like you're saying with like some parts of Utah, it's like very deserty and
Mhm.
and but then the northern part of Utah is a lot of people talk about Denver as far as the Rocky Mountains, but Salt Lake City, the Rocky Mountains are right surrounding the city. So
Yeah,
it's really beautiful. It's very different from southern Utah, but it's so beautiful.
awesome.
Yeah. So tell us how the union has impacted you and your family.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think like most of us that are involved in the union and more than just watching, it's given me a community, whether that be online or in person or at games. I tell people all the time, there's no other sporting event that I've ever gone to, professional that being, where I walk into a stadium and people are saying hello to me as I'm walking through the crowd. People that like come to union games for the first time are like, dude, does everyone know you? Like, and I'm like, no, there's just like people just have a community here and people know who each other are. We're all coming to
Mhm.
the game every week, and we decided to get to know the other people that are coming here every week. And I think that's a little bit different than other sports. You don't have that as much. It's really given me a nice community both online and in person, and people have been really accepting. I have a hard time pushing myself out at first, but once I did, people were very accepting, and I found a great pocket of people in almost every corner of the stadium that I've been to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you know, like I'm a 5-for-5 fan, and I have never had the kind of community that I have with the union with the other sports. I couldn't imagine, I go to a Phillies game or something. It's like I don't know anybody. I
Yeah,
mean, but I love going to the fact that we go to union games and we see all kinds of people we know, and we have such a good community. And part of being in Sons of Ben helps. But when we started going to games, we didn't know anybody, and when we first
yeah,
signed up for Sons of Ben and we went, and it's helpful. Kyle's way more outgoing than me, but he started talking to people, and we started getting introduced to people, and networking, getting to know more and more people through that. So it's been great. And that's, yeah, I do think it sets us apart from other sports in Philly.
Yeah, the
definitely.
one the one thing, and you hit on that, is just as we get to know more and more people, and I keep saying this to everybody that when we promote the Sons of Ben tailgates, like people there want to get to know people. It's a party. It's a family atmosphere. It's like one big barbecue. And as people come in more and more, there are people out there that are walking. Like even now, I've just kind of gone up to people and started talking to them. If I see somebody I've never talked to before, and I encourage other people to do that, because there is a lot of good people out there that, they might be attending their first tailgate. They might be going to their very first Union game with a buddy. Like, continue to grow this fan base. And that leads me into my next question. How have you seen, since your time in Philly, the Union fandom grow in Philadelphia? Because you're there, we're in Lancaster, and I can talk about Lancaster, York, but also, what are your opinions of how the Union can continue to grow the fan base?
Yeah, I mean, I think winning certainly helps, right?
Right. Yeah.
Being really good and getting to the final stage of your competition helps bring exposure to your city. But I think in general, it started going from like, hey, what's that on your shirt, to, oh, hey, that's the Union. They're really good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of been the difference I've been seeing over the last few years is there's less questions about like, what is that? And more about like, who is that? Like, what is that all about? And so I think slowly we're starting to get people more interested that are outside of the normal circle that we see and have built over the past decade and plus. But I think outside of that, I think with the involvement of all the people that we have, both through the tailgates of Sons of Ben, through KSU, through the other little fractions of supporters groups at the River End, and through all the different content supporters, I think we're just going to keep reaching more people and keep showing this culture that we have at Subaru Park as Union fans. And I think that's going to keep drawing people and keep interesting them. And I think that it's really important to note, like, I think our stadium's at like 14,000 season ticket members.
It's something like that. I
We
mean,
have a really good foundation. Yeah, we have a really good foundation of fans that are coming every single week. So I think it's just about getting casual fans to become a little bit less casual, and I think just getting them out to games is the biggest step.
I think so too, because we've said a million times, I had followed the Union very casually, because I was playing soccer when MLS 1.0 took foundation after the 94 World Cup. I remember those games. I remember DC United and New York Metros. She had never been to one, and she was like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, you should go. Soccer's fun." I remember going to New York Cosmos soccer camp
I mean, I
back in
was
the
like
80s.
really casually following them, but
So I
yeah.
think you're right. You hit the nail on the head. Just getting people out there for the first time, getting them to see the environment, sitting down near the river end, getting them to see the Sons of Ben live, and just feeling that passion, that energy. But again, at the end of the day, winning does help. But I think once you get hooked, you're hooked.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk a bit about the fan experience and the tailgating and everything. And so first of all, and we did have a question from Pat in the Hat. And the Union have been adding a lot to pregame festivities around the stadium. What are we missing to take that next step, basically?
Yeah.
What do you think? What are we missing?
What do you think? You brought up a really good thing about, remember the Union Yards when they announced that, and you were talking about what the Ravens do and all that. So we really haven't talked about that on our show, but you brought up a really good point. So I'd love to hear that. And I think Pat would too. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I've been told by someone from the team that there's plans of making that street where Union Yards and SOBs are located kind of the main point of congregation for Union fans going forward. And I think the evidence is kind of there with that new I don't know what to call it, brickwork on the ground of the
Mm-hmm.
Union logo, kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
leading up to both of those points. Um, and I think we're going to start seeing more permanent establishments, or maybe not full buildings yet, but I think more pop-up stuff coming in the maybe not this year, but I think in the coming years we'll start seeing more stuff come to that street for the game day experience. So I do understand that it is a little tough to have that competition for the Sons of Ben, who work very hard and are all volunteer based. So it's I commend everything that they do, and they do an awesome job. And I think everyone should go and check out what they do. It's a great deal too. If you buy the ticket before the day of game, it's like $15 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but I think at the same point, I think having all of those things next to the SOB lots, directly next to the SOB lots, is going to be beyond beneficial. I think with the old lot and how it was kind of off to the side, people would see it and knew what it was, but it was so hard. There was nothing drawing you over there and taking you off the path from where you were walking to the stadium to go over there and check it out for the first time. So I think that having people directly on the same street as this lot and can direct, like, literally hear people talking as they walk by, are going to be so much more drawn to checking out what the SOB lot has to offer.
Yeah, I agree. Like a lot of people were like, "Oh, this sucks having it right by the SOB lot." And no, I think actually, yeah, like you said, I think it's mutually beneficial. And as it catches on, because right now, I mean, we're seeing the Union Yards is kind of empty at times. Um it's definitely not as busy as SOB. But yeah, I think like having all that pregame stuff for them to do is great, and it's only going to strengthen the pregame experience. And yeah, I love what they're doing with the pavement and everything with that design. That looks so good. And I think they could probably promote Union Yards a little bit more, because I feel like a lot of people still probably don't know about it, but it'll catch
Yeah.
on, I think. But
Yeah.
I mean, because like we still see the plaza packed. Plaza's great.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah.
think in another 2-3 years, everything will be harmonious, and I think new fans are going to come in and be like, what is that? Oh, that's supporters tailgate. Great deal. All you can eat, all you can drink. And then you're going to say, oh, what's that? Well, this maybe is a more family-friendly option for new families. I think there'll be something for everybody. And at the end of the day, everybody's going to have a great experience. I mean, you go anywhere in England or Europe, there's something for everybody over there pregame, So, I mean,
Yeah.
I just feel
I'm
like,
also,
look ahead.
I'm also just envisioning, 5 years or from now, when there is some more kind of permanent establishments there, and there is more people congregated. I mean, when 6:30 rolls around and it's time to walk in, and it's everyone knows it's an hour before game time, gates are open. That walk-in is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And I'm personally really excited for that.
Me too.
I think it's not just going to be the SOBs. It's going to be everyone that are hanging out at all these different little spots that are going to be on the street, all at once, recognizing, hey, it's time to go in, and it's not going to be just the 400 or 500 people at the SOB lots. It's going to be, hopefully a couple thousand. I think it's going to be awesome.
Right.
I really am hopeful for that down the road.
Yeah, that is a great point, because
it is.
I see, like, for instance, I mean, Cincinnati, they always have like a huge group walking in,
Mhm.
and that's like, that's pretty cool. Like, I think absolutely we've grabbed some people from Union Yards and, you know, places as we're walking in. But can you imagine though how many more people we could have though as this
Well,
grows?
I mean, can you imagine a family just showing up for the first time and then just seeing this huge parade of smoke and flags and people chanting, just following along, being like, "What is this?" Oh, this is like the march in,
Exactly.
you know. And I think
Starting
that's
to
some.
see that happen, but you know, people
Oh,
catch
we've
and of
seen
course
it a
people
million times in the plaza now, especially with the new
yeah.
route. People just walking in, they're like in the plaza going, "Oh my gosh, that's the Sons of Ben. Let's go marching in
Yeah.
with them," you know, and then they'll just stand there and watch
Yep.
us all chant. So it's a lot of fun. And I think there's good improvement and opportunity there. So
Yeah.
I agree.
all right. Next. All right. So
Oh, let's talk about fashion for a second.
oh yes.
Yeah. So I'm all about the merch and everything. Yeah. So
Yes,
what
I
are some
love
of
it.
your favorite pieces of Union merch that you have?
Well,
So I have a few pieces picked out here. Um, let's see. The first one I have is that bomber jacket that I think came out last year.
Yeah.
Um,
yes.
Yeah, Kyle has
really
that
nice. I
too.
think it's yeah, this one's really great. I try to wear it to honestly too many games. I look for too many like as soon as it's like a little cold out, I'm like, yep, I'm wearing it, and then I like end up never wearing it once I'm actually at the game. But I look great while I'm on the way to the game at least. So
Absolutely.
that's the one that I really like. I have this old training top. I don't know what year this is from. I believe it's just a training top, and the reason I believe that is because I have one that's the exact same for Columbus Crew as well. Like it's literally just a template, and it doesn't have any number on it or anything like that. So I think it was just a training top, and it also this is so weird and so like mid 2000s, but it has the thumb hole on it too.
I love
Here,
the
here
thumb
we go.
holes.
Yeah, it
My
has.
Yes.
mine
Yeah,
has
yeah.
that. The one I wear sometimes
Yep.
the long sleeve has that. Hold that up again because
Let me
Billy of
see.
Union Archives, he probably could be able to know what year that is. Billy would know what that is.
Yes.
Can you hold up
Yeah,
the whole
I've
time?
thought about reaching out to Brizzy. Yep, here it is again. It's got like a nice light, not lightning blue, but like kind of a lighter blue trim on it. It is long sleeve as well. Yeah,
Billy,
and it also is like
I'd love to know
fleece
what that
lined
is.
too. It's like yeah, it's also like fleece lined on the inside too. It's really warm. So I get a
Nice.
lot of use out of that one. And then the last one I have, um, I found some kids selling this online for like 70 bucks. And
What?
I later found out that it's like I've had people in the stadium like talk to me as if I'm working before. So it's definitely like in an old employee jacket.
Wow.
Um,
Nice.
yeah, it's just like one of those like super super long ones that like go down to your
Nice.
knees.
Oh,
It's got
awesome.
the yeah, it's great.
Did
I
you
love
get
it.
that where'd you get that? Was it Macari or eBay?
Yeah, it was Macari. Yep,
Nice, nice. Macari has good
yep.
stuff. Like it's hit or miss, but you can find like some really good stuff there. It just goes really
Oh
fast.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you can. I've gotten quite a bit of Union gear on Macari actually. It's a great spot for getting stuff pretty cheap.
all right. So, um, what's the next question?
Yeah. So you're into music. Do you
Mhm.
have a game day playlist at all?
You know, I don't actually have a specific game day playlist, but I do have a tend of kind of a mood that I tend to go with.
Mhm.
So I did kind of put a playlist together for you guys off of what that mood
Oh,
kind of tends to be. So I'll
okay.
send that over to you guys, and you can feel free to like put it out on socials or whatever you want to do with it. But
Let's do that.
it's got a whole range of stuff on it. I don't know. Just to go into it a little bit, I used to work in music full time.
Hmm.
When I was really young, I started touring with friends' bands, kind of just like I would do anything I could just to get out on the road. And it snowballed really, really quickly. And after a few years, I found myself working in Midtown Manhattan in New York City for a booking agency, working for a lot of like my favorite bands, honestly. So it was kind of a dream. And after a few years of that, I decided to move to Philly to be with my partner, and I was managing bands for a couple years. But now I'm just selling merch mostly. I sell merch at the Man Center in the summer, and then at the TLA and the Fillmore. So if y'all are ever at a show and you see someone that looks like me behind the merch table, it's probably me. So come up and say what's up. And like anytime I see someone in union gear, I stop them and say, you know, what's up, and tell them my Twitter handle and where I write and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's a good time.
Yeah, I know. I saw you just were at the Weezer show. They're my favorite band. So
Yeah, that was
I
cool.
know a few people that went to it, and I wish I would have gone. I saw the set list was killer. So
It was really
I have
good.
regrets. I have regrets that I did not go. But yeah, that's awesome though. That's really cool that you do that.
So you and I talked up there at the when we were at the press box. You know, you and I both have very eclectic taste of music. Like I go from everything from like hardcore metal to like Johnny Cash, you know, and then like 80s new wave. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I just feel like nowadays, and we'll talk about this for a second, like maybe I'm getting old, but which I am getting old, but I just feel like now some music's too digitally created and there's no soul into it. How do you feel about that? Because I just feel like
well, I think I have the same assessment at times where I think I'm like just getting too old, right?
Right.
I think, you know, at times I'm like, yo, I think I just don't get this, and that's okay. Like I'm starting to come with the understanding of like, yo, I don't have to like everything. Like this is chill. People like this because whatever reason, and like whatever. But I kind of agree with you, and uh, I think part of that is the accessibility factor, right? It used to be so hard. Oh, we've got a cameo from my cat in the background. It used to be.
You have an orange cat? Nice.
Yeah, I do. He's got the most orange cat energy ever. So if he starts pulling stuff off the wall, I apologize.
No, it's all good.
But I think it just used to be so hard for people to make music. It cost so much money. You had to rent out music space. Now anybody can make music, and that's good in a lot of ways because there's a lot of unhidden talent that is able to be found because of that. But at the same time, you've got a lot of really interesting people making a lot of really interesting music who are able to create fandom for one reason or the other, and it's not always music. That's the important thing about music now is popularity in music very rarely is about just the music now. So yeah, I kind of understand that sentiment.
And no, I agree with you on 100%. You know, like I love jazz. Like I grew up in jazz, like listening to jazz, which you're like, wow. And then you're like, but jazz also spins off into metal because a lot of metal drummers are jazz drummers. And you know, so at the end of the day, when I listen to music, I listen for technical paralysis or just that emotional connection. And I'm not ripping anybody when I said that earlier. What I'm saying is I just feel like when we go into auto tune and like you know some of that kind of stuff, I just feel like it takes away from that emotional connection. So you know,
yeah, I completely understand that. I do think at times that it does, but I also think at other times it can be a tool that people use in a way that can be really enhancing.
That's fair.
But I digress. We could talk about the nuances of music.
We could do a whole podcast. Like I told Matt Ralph, we could do a podcast about music, which I'd be totally happy with. Like I told Matt Ralph, I could do a whole podcast talking about United States soccer and like how it's structured and all the groups. But anyway,
that actually was something I thought about at one point when I was starting a podcast talking to like people that are in the music industry about MLS soccer, but I couldn't find enough people that were into
Oh,
MLS yet. So maybe give it like 3 or 4 more years, and then
absolutely,
we'll have
man.
enough clientele.
Hey, especially with Messi now, you know this league's gonna blow up now. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
so let's now start talking a little bit of Union. Because this is what the podcast is about. As a fan, what are your top 3 Union moments?
Ah, man. I think one of my favorite moments overall had to be the El Seno game.
Mm,
Um,
nice.
don't think I was as committed. I don't think I was 100% sold on Union at that point. But I was watching that game, and I mean, any game that you have to name after one single player,
Right.
um, like, come on, like yeah, you gotta put that in your top at least 5, right? Another one has got to be the Glesnes overtime goal against Red Bull in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, uh, I it was hard to really explain. I don't even think that anyone really thought that goal was possible when he wound it up. Even everyone yelling shoot. I don't think really people had any confidence in that hitting the back of the net. So that was just one of the most amazing sports moments I've ever seen ever. And as much as it hurt, I have to say, Jack Elliott's goal to go up in the MLS Cup, being at Subaru Park for the watch along with everyone. I tell
Mm-hmm.
people all the time, I think that moment was louder than a lot of moments where Subaru Park is full. And being on the field and running around and hugging people I've never met for those like 5 minutes or whatever was
Yeah.
probably one of the greatest moments I've ever experienced. So I know how heartbreaking that was overall to experience it, but I know that getting that little taste of it, I know how sweet it is to finally going to be able to get that one day. So
Yeah.
I'm getting
Yep.
emotional talking about it myself.
I
It's
already
really
am
hard,
too.
but yeah,
I
but
am.
I know, especially losing all 3 championships as a Philadelphia sports city
Oh,
in a row.
yeah.
I know that day is going to be so much sweeter because of all of that hurt.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. You can't truly appreciate how good things are unless you've experienced how bad they can be too.
Yeah.
So I'm really hopeful someday that it's going to be one really kick-ass party.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
like I said today, it's going to happen one day. Like after
It
that game,
is.
and
Yeah.
I don't think I ever said this. So after that game, we went out and watched the Phillies lose, and we walked back to the hotel we were staying at. And a whole bunch of Union fans were at the bar. And I just looked at a whole bunch of them there, and they were all talking. I said, I don't care how long it takes. One day the Union are going to raise that cup, and
Mm-hmm.
we're all going to be there, and it's going to be the greatest celebration ever. And
Yep.
everybody will know what it is. And everybody kind of looked at everybody and we were like, yeah, no, it's going to happen one day. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, that moment
Absolutely.
in
and
stands
it's
though.
probably going to happen when we all least expect it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's how sports
Well,
works,
yeah.
but
It is. Yeah. No, it really, you're exactly right on that. I think, I think in general, just the consistent steps that Union are taking year after year. I mean,
right.
it took so long to get their first playoff win, and then since then, it's just been up and up and up every season. And maybe there's going to be a season where you don't take that step up, but eventually you're going to get there. And I think that the organization and Jim, now that he's signed on, and I mean, it was so obvious with all these players signing on long term, how happy people are to be here and how much
Right.
they believe in the same thing we're saying. So it's going to come. It may not come in this era. I hope it does.
Yeah, me
But
too.
one day it's going to come. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, like,
okay.
I'll tell you what, we were in LA for the cup and up in the stands there. And yeah, like when Jack scored that goal, we went up. That was literally like some of the
Oh,
most
I can't
joy I
imagine
have
being there.
felt ever.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and like it's funny that you said that hugging people you didn't know. It was the same for us. Like, we turn around and we're just like everyone hugging, and you could feel the stands just shaking, and it was so loud, and it was amazing. And Kyle like blacked out pretty much.
Yeah, like to this day,
like, I have video of us like celebrating and stuff.
I
Kyle's
still
just, like,
don't
in
remember.
shock, but
I still don't remember all of it, but
just,
it was awesome.
so close, but yeah, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
I joke about that, but
point.
when I blacked out, like that's how a team means so much to you,
right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
So let's talk about this season. I mean, people have differing opinions, and I kind of, like you, take a very non-biased. I try to take a non-biased approach, but at the end of the day, I'm still a fan. So, where are you at with this season?
Well, I can't even get disappointed or upset with people that do see the season as I guess, for the lack of better terms, a disappointment so far. But here's one thing I do want to talk about, especially with just the previous topic that we talked about. Maybe we can just kind of transition this into that.
Okay.
Think about the emotions, how you felt after those games. And I don't know about you, it took me a few days to really come around too. And my girlfriend was like, yo, like, what's like, are you okay? Like, this is really gotten to you. And I know there was many Union fans that wouldn't even touch soccer in general until MLS season came back. And so I think about those emotions and the roller coaster of emotions we experienced on that day, from thinking we're going to lose to thinking we're going to win to losing. And I think about the players and the coaches and how they felt after that. And I know they're professional. I know they're going to do whatever they can to try to move on as quickly as they can. But I have no doubt that every single one of those players has been working from a very young age to get to that moment that they thought they had, that we thought we had.
Right.
And I can't imagine what it's like to have that torn away from you as a player. I mean, it hurt. It fucking hurt for us. So what does it feel like to them? So with that and the combination of Champions League, to be honest, as much as on paper it looks like it's going to be a run it back here, I always was scared that there was going to be not as much excitement as there was last year. And I think in general, with such a record-breaking year, there never was going to be that exact same excitement, right? Like you don't do that 2 years in a row. That is really hard to do. And I think that it's really hard for some people, especially some of the newer people, to accept winning 1-0, 2-1, and not 4, 5, 6-0, And so I do understand people's disappointment, but I do think that Union are on track to make the playoffs. I think they will, at the end of the day, have a pretty high seed in the Eastern Conference. I think they'll have a home game. And I think all that matters in this league is getting hot at the right time. Getting hot at the end of the season is what you need in order to lift the cup at the end of the year. And I understand Champions League is disappointing. Open Cup is disappointing. Maybe the Supporter Shield is out of reach. That may be disappointing, but I think Jim Curtin said today they're going to take Leagues Cup seriously, and we know they're going to take MLS Cup seriously. So I'm still hopeful for this year. And at the end of the day, I think, like I said before, they've got a good foundation, and I'm going to enjoy the season no matter what. So I do understand people's disappointment, but I think just be patient and see how things pan out. Like Kyle said, you may win that championship when you're least expecting it. We may just make playoffs by the skin of our teeth, but that may be what we need to get some piss in our pants and kind of get us going and win things. So
absolutely. And no, I get everybody's different views. I mean, I think that's the one thing, and I said it today, I forget who I was talking to, and I said, did we expect it in 2021 with coming off of CCL? No, we didn't. We didn't expect to make that run, and then COVID happened, but we won't go there. At the end of the day, I think the Union have an opportunity if they get hot.
Yeah.
All right. at the right time, like you said, Jimmy, anything's possible. With this team, anything's possible. But
Mm-hmm.
you brought up Champions League. It was funny because I was on the presser today, and Jim basically first came out and was like, "Hey, Leagues Cup, we're going to try different formations, different lineups," and then he kind of backtracked it at towards the end on George. I think was asked the question, and he's like, "Well, teams prioritize like Leagues Cup and the money it's involved, so we're going to go for it too." So I think you're going to see in these group stages. You've been in those pressers with Jim. Jim will like say one thing and he means it. Like he's giving
He
you
does, yeah.
little tidbits here, little tidbits there. I think he's going to experiment in these group stages. But if the Union do advance to, let's say, after the first knockout round, then it's like, let's go here. Here's the Union, because let's be honest, that's a CCL berth next year.
Right.
And
Well,
go ahead.
Well, one thing I think that I mean, it is a small sample size, and maybe this could change with tomorrow or the next couple of days, depending
Yeah.
on what happens now that the transfer window is open. But I think that them moving Brandon Craig to Austin on loan shows that they are going to take this a little bit seriously. They're not
No,
going
they
to just
are.
play all the kids and just say, yeah, whatever happens happens. They just got rid of their only defenseman that it doesn't start essentially when all three
Right.
are with the club. So yeah, I think they are going to put out competitive teams. I think you are going to see rotation, but I think they are going to go for it. And I'm hoping that with the transfer window being open now, I'm hoping we can get someone in that maybe can play in those games, but isn't a drop off that we see with some of the younger guys that we have now.
No, and that's a good point. So we'll get to transfers in a second because I want to get your thoughts. But let's bring up Brandon Craig for a second. So my thought on Craig is I think he is a very good U20 talent. I think I've watched U20s, seen him at U2. I really am a big fan of his. But is it like he's on the bench and yet we're starting Nate Harrier, we're starting Matt Riel, we're starting Kai Wagner. And people are like, oh my gosh, why wasn't he starting? Like, you've even heard Jonathan Tannenwald like grill Jim, like, when's Brandon Craig starting? Is it just a thing of like Jim's like he's not ready yet? Or do you think like this moment for Brandon to go to Austin is okay, show me you're an MLS player, and then we're gonna bring you back. And if you show us that, okay, we'll figure it out. Or because I do think he is a good player. But it also concerns me like he wasn't able to crack that. Now you're behind Damian Lowe, you're behind two arguably when they're on their day, they're the best center back duo in the league. So there is a little bit of an, I would say, that's a hard wall to crack. So at the end of the day, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think you're exactly right about being behind. Not only, I mean, either one of Jacob Lesnes or Jack Elliott could have won Defender of the Year last year, and I think Damian Lowe has been such an incredible addition to this team that you're right. It's hard for Brandon Craig to get any sort of meaningful minutes or minutes at all when you've got those three guys in the lineup. But at the same time, it's hard for me to it's hard for me to think that there hasn't been a moment that we could have given Brandon Craig some sort of minutes, whether it's up a couple goals late in games or whatever. The issue is that Jim has a very he has a way of thinking. He likes to stick to that, and he's self-admittedly. It's hard for him to get away from some of those things sometimes. And one of those things being is that he does not like to change too many people in the defense, specifically in a game. So I think that's one of the reasons you fail to see Brandon Craig come on. I think if he does change someone in the defense, he wants it to be one of those outside backs. In addition to that, I think trust is such a huge thing with Jim.
It is.
He's got to trust you, and
Mm-hmm.
we see that with Perea for whatever reason. I think whenever he's played, he's showed good signs, but for whatever reason, there's something that Jim doesn't fully trust about Perea to put him out on the pitch, and I that's got to be the reason with Brandon Craig too. And I think that when you have such high expectations with a team, not only for yourself as a coach, but with all the front office and the team and the fans around you, I think Jim has a hard time finding the right moment to put Brandon in um, without that game meaning something if it goes wrong. So I think Brandon Craig going on loan to Austin is exactly what you're saying is get those minutes, and if you mess up, it's not for us. Like it's chill. You're not taking minutes away from anyone. Minutes are needed over there. Go make mistakes, learn, and come back and be a better player next
Yep.
year, ready for us.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
and I don't yep, and I don't think that's a negative at all. It might be
No,
a
I
hard
don't either.
lesson for Brandon Craig, but I think it'll be good overall.
Yeah.
And considering what we got for him, I mean, hey, he hits
Yeah.
those incentives. I mean, that's good business. I know some people are like, I don't care about business. I'm like, well, I'm kind of a business guy. Like being a college coach, like at the end of the day with the scholarships, like it's business.
No,
And
this was a good move.
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
And
I mean,
I think that the fact that I didn't look at the deal too with as much intent as I should have when I first looked at it.
yeah,
But I believe there was some money that went into the loan as well, and I
there
believe
was.
with that money, I have a really hard time thinking that Austin would send money for a loan for a young player without intent to play him at least a little bit.
Well,
I
and I
think that
think
would be
their
really
center
bad
backs are injured.
business.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yes.
They're both injured. So I think he's going to get time. And, you know, if he hits those benchmarks, it's a little bit more. So at the end of the day, Ernst does the job. It's a win for first and most importantly, as Jim said today, it's a win for him.
Yeah.
Like he's going to get playing opportunity now. And Jim, and that's one thing I love about Jim and Ernst. They put players in situations where they can succeed no matter where they go. So and I think at the end of the day, it helps the union. So we'll see how that plays out. But let's talk transfer window. What and what is like if we don't get a striker, everybody's banging the table for a striker. Is that a failure? Or as I've said, we've seen the union way where they're also kind of building for the future. They don't want to make this just it's 2023 or bust. It's got to be more to, yeah, we want to win this year, but we also got to move forward and make sure we have a healthy foundation. Personally, I'd like to see a third striker off the bench. I think we all would. But I'm curious to get your takes because everybody I've asked this has different opinions. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it since we basically kicked off the season. I think that going into the season without a third striker on the bench with MLS experience was a mistake, and I think we've seen that. And we also came into the season with Mikel Ewa playing, I believe, one 90-minute game in his entire Union career up until I think he only played 90 minutes once last season, and I think he's only done it once or twice this season. So I was always kind of curious as to what the game plan was with only two strikers and one that comes off early in almost every match without seeing some sort of drop off. And I think that there was hope that it could be picked up, whether that was Chris Donovan or Quinn Sullivan or whoever. But it just hasn't been there. And for whatever reason, Corey Burke went on his way up 95 to Red Bull last year, and I think it's severely missed. I don't think we need a guy that's going to score 10 goals a year, but I do think we need someone that is some sort of threat off the bench and in rotation games to start that can give us some sort of threat going forward. So, yeah, I do think we need another forward. Other than that, I don't know. I think it kind of depends on departures, right?
Yeah,
I
it
think
does.
it depends on who goes out. I don't think there's any other real hole that I think we need to fill. I think realistically for me, I think we have to get another center back, right? If we're going to start three center backs a game, we can't have no one on the bench unless we're going to
Right.
count whoever Nate Harriel or Matt Real's not starting as that other center back. But I think if you could find a center back that would be okay with not starting and getting some minutes off the bench or in rotation games, I think that could be a benefit too. But again, I don't know. I don't know how easy it is to find a fourth center back that isn't demanding to play. So,
Yeah.
No, I
what do
don't
you
think
guys
so.
think?
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I think striker is a big need. There's a big Corey Burke shaped hole there. As Kyle knows how I feel about that. I miss Corey Burke.
We all
Same.
do.
Yes, he knows. Like I miss Stuart Finley and I miss Corey Burke. But I think we do need someone to come off the bench there and fill that striker role, obviously. And I agree. It'd be good to get backup center back there. But yeah, I think like midfield, I think we're good. Like,
Well,
but
I think Torres is a work in progress. I think as
yeah,
much as
he's
we
been a bit of a
wanted,
letdown, but
well, I
he's
want
a
to
work in
say,
progress.
I
Yes.
think he's more. I think same with Perea.
Yeah, I want to know what's going on with Pareja because, like, when he did play, like early in the
Is
season, I
it
thought he looked
something
good,
that he's
but
just not
what
doing
is
in
it? Yeah,
training?
yeah,
But
I don't know what's going on there.
I think at the end of the day, what I would love to see is a true like somebody that's like can play on, either for Leon or Ale or even Daniel, like coming off like a mixed midfielder. I'd like to see that. And then Ernst has said point blank, like if we move Kai, which that's $1 million rule. We've been waiting for that, expecting that the year, and at the end of the
Right.
day, we all know what's going to happen there. You hope Union get money, but that is what it is. But he has backup plans, so you're probably going to maybe if we see a left back coming in here, that
What's
probably
up.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's happening. But at the end of the day, we also know that Ernst plays his hand really close, like his. You'll see all these transfers, and it's like everybody's like, "Where's the Union transfers?" It's like, did we see any of the transfers last year, this early in the
I
season
mean,
coming in?
even Tannenwald and all those. I don't think anyone had any sort of clue about Brandon Craig going on loan.
No,
Everyone was caught by surprise by that, to my
yeah,
knowledge. I don't think anyone had any information on that leading up to that. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think everything will be really kept close. I also do think uh, that they will try if I think they will try to have replacements ready if they know somebody's going to be on their way out.
oh, I think they do too.
Yeah, I think that they're going to do their best to have it. So, again, I don't know if anybody's on their way out, but if Kai were to leave or when he does, I think Union would do their best to have someone ready to go to take over for Kai as soon as possible. If not, right away. So I think that can be applicable to other places in the lineup as well. I think that if there's one other kind of need I think that we're looking for and that may be of interest in the market or in the transfer window is I just think there's a little lack of creativity in the midfield a little bit. Someone that can
Fair.
really just kind of create chances. Gozdog's been a great player, but I think that we need someone when the game's tied or we're down a goal. Who's the guy that's really just going to get on the ball and decide that we're going to go and score? Like I don't know if you guys watched El Trafico the other night, but
Yeah,
Ricky
Yeah.
Puig was incredible, man. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
he
he had a
just
great game.
yeah, you could tell that he wanted to win that game, and anytime he touched the ball, he said, I'm going to have an impact on this play." And I think that at times Union have missed that for whatever reason this year. So yeah, I don't know if we could find someone. I think Torres was the hope in that, and it just hasn't worked out so far yet. But I think you're right, Kyle. I think not all hope is lost yet on that, and hopefully that can come to fruition on
Yeah.
the Torres front. And maybe we don't need to bring in someone there. I think most importantly, the team isn't going to go out and get something just for the sake of it. Um, if opportunities arise, they're going to take them seriously. But I don't think the Union are going to go out and get some 38-year-old guy from Europe because he's
No,
retiring and is available.
Right.
You know what I mean?
no,
So
that's not the
I think
Union way.
no, and I think any move will be very calculated and very thought of both on the pitch and off the pitch. So
Yeah, I think it's a good way to segue into, speaking of LA
All right,
Galaxy.
go ahead.
We got them this Saturday. So what are you most looking forward to with the Union's next game versus Galaxy? What are you looking for there?
yeah, well, I actually think this is a big game. When
Mhm.
looking at this road trip, looking at a 3 game span on the road, there was a lot of talk on Twitter. I had a post, I think maybe you guys did, or maybe Todd, a couple other people did about how many points people thought Union would come away with from this 3 game
Mhm.
stretch. And I think a lot of people were hoping for a minimum of 4, or maybe even a 6 um, uh, as the best case scenario. But going into the 2 games now, or this will be the second game, losing the first one. This one becomes kind of a big one because if you lose this one, now you're going into Nashville on short rest, in a very
Mm-hmm.
hard place to play, having
Yep.
lost 2 in a row, and getting points there where most people were hoping for a tie. If you're if you're looking for just a tie there, that's looking for 1 point out of 3 games on the road, and it's not as successful of a road trip as you were hoping for. So this game has become a little bit bigger than it initially was, I think, and I think it becomes a little bit bigger in the fact that LA are kind of feeling themselves now after that Trafico win. So I don't think they're
Yeah.
as big of a pushover as they may have been earlier in the season when things were kind of going haywire with their front office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see what this game is going to be. I think the midfield is going to be where things are won in this game for sure.
I agree with you on the midfield. For me, it's funny you brought about feeling the LA feeling it. They have 0 losses. So I do like a weekly stat sheet just for like every
Mhm.
year. I like pull up stat matches I've like last 3 years. And
Nice.
LA hasn't lost in 5 games. And here's some more bad news, if you want to call it that. Union are one win, 1 draw, and 5 losses all time in LA with a -10 goal differential. All right. So we take that out of the equation. Now the positive. Both teams, I know we all complain Union giving up early goals this year. So is LA Galaxy. If we can score early, LA Galaxy also has had some blown leads second half, but the Union haven't on the road. So my thing is, can we score early, get that crowd out of it? And
Mhm.
also, I think after the last El Trafico, now that was earlier in the year, they got, I forget who they played, but it was a very emotional letdown. So
Man, Galaxy have
Definitely,
owned
yeah.
LAFC this
yeah,
year.
they have owned LAFC this year, but so can we catch them on emotional letdown on a short week? Granted, as we all know, physiology, when you go out from the East Coast to West Coast, it's a different time differential. That's going to play a factor. For me, I just want to see us. I love 3 points. I said
Mhm.
earlier after we lost that game, we need 3 points. We need
Hmm.
a point. Give me a
Yep.
point. I said on this 3 game road span, I had 2 points on this 3 game home span, away span. Sorry, away span. I had us drawing in Atlanta, we lost. I have us drawing in LA. Hopefully we win, and I have us losing in Nashville. Now, we know Nashville and the Union always play tight. So, I mean, anything's possible. I mean, heck, we get 3 points this week and we get 3 points on Wednesday, and then we get 3 points and everybody's happy. I mean,
Exactly.
Jim said today, this is probably the toughest road stretch of the season. After this
It
road
is, yeah.
stretch, after Leafs Cup, we got a lot of the big dogs at home. So, I mean, let's go and let's see what the Union can do. I mean, it hurts with not having, Andre, not having Damian, but at the end of the day, this is where those teams show what they're made of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've got to just step it up. And, Joe Bendick, he, aside from that second goal, he wasn't terrible against Atlanta.
He's a good backup. He's a good backup.
He made some nice saves, and we need to have more shots on goal. We need to have more chances there. Made a lot of block shots, but if we can get the momentum early, I think that will be huge, and not get scored on in the first few minutes. I had said to Kyle before the game against Atlanta, I'm like, I feel like we're gonna get scored on within the first 8 minutes, and I was right.
You were.
Sadly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think man, missing Damian has been one of the bigger. I know missing Andre is obviously, it's one of the hardest put things to replace in this team, but I think Damian has been a really important piece, because I can see the bits of hesitation from Elliott and Glesnes on steps and tackles that they're supposed to make, and their cues a little bit. And I think it's because they know in their head, we have one less center back around us. So where if I make this step and I miss it, it's okay because I've got one of these two guys behind me. Whereas now they don't have that, and they know they don't have Andre Blake in net too. So they're also being a little bit reluctant to make some of those steps, knowing that Andre Blake could pull out an amazing save out of his hat if he needs to. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how. Obviously, we're gonna continue to go with the diamond. I think with this game, just without having options at center back. So I'm interested to see if Flock keeps starting. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think Flock should continue to start? Do you think McGlinton should come in? I don't think Flock has really done anything to be taken out, but I also think McGlynn has played really well when he's played too. So
I think both things are true. I think in the double pivot next Brujo, he's phenomenal.
Yeah,
and I think after that slow start to the season, he's kind of gotten something lit up. Like when I was at Red Bulls, I'm like, what is he doing? Even at Colorado, I was like, what is he doing? And then all of a sudden, I know he had some, what was it? Like he had something in his pelvic or like.
Yeah, Jim said I remember Jim saying this year that he's got an injury that he will deal with for the whole season. I don't know exactly what that means.
It's like something, it's just like a pelvic injury, but like all of a sudden he's playing good. Look, I mean, I've seen the Union Facebook posts of like people just hating on Flock.
Leon gets way too much hate. It's
because he does. Like, and let's be honest, is he this offensive juggernaut? No. But he does the dirty man's work that does not show up on the stat sheet. When he plays well, people, and that's why, like, all of a sudden you're getting these reports of like Bundesliga teams like, hey, we are interested in Leon. Like, he's just a dirty man. He's a dirty worker, which, well, I shouldn't say dirty worker. He's a hard worker. He does
I know what you mean. Yeah. He does the dirty work. Yeah.
He does the dirty work.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, but you need that on this team. Yeah. You need that. And I think Jim finds value on that. And I think that's why he starts. At the same time, I think Jim sees the value in Jack. I mean, Jack can create. Yeah, maybe. And I think it was Kevin Kincaid said, maybe Jack's defensive capabilities compared with his offensive capabilities warrant him starting over Leon. But I think it's a perfect problem to have at the end of the day. I
Mhm.
really do. I think it gives Jim more tools in his toolbox
Mhm.
with formation flexibility. So I think at the end of the day, to answer your question, even though I'm kind of pulling a Jim right now where he doesn't answer your question when you
Yeah.
ask him. I think at the end of the day, you can do both. I still like Leon and then bring Jack in late. And if you go to double pivot, try to figure something out there. And if Leon needs a day off, you start Jack. It's a good problem to have. I just don't want Jack starting for Alec because I don't like Jack on that right side of the pitch.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I think Jack's his best when he's on his natural foot, right?
Yeah.
And when he's over on that right side, I feel like he is too pinned into playing conservative passes, and I don't think he has that freedom that he does when he's on the left side. So yeah, I agree with that.
All right. So anyway, Jim, we appreciate you having you on tonight. And before we get going, first, you're with Philadelphia Sports Network. Where can people find you socially? And also, talk about some any upcoming pieces you have.
Yeah, I mean, everyone can find me on all the socials, Instagram, Twitter. I am on Threads. I haven't really done anything on it yet, but I am on there at Jimmy King 35. The 35 doesn't really mean anything. I don't know. It's just a number I picked when I was in like sixth grade, and it's been in all my usernames since. So that's what it is. You can find all my work at Philly Sports Network. And I do a lot of the match recaps, a lot of the match previews. I do have an article on Daniel Gazdag that I've been waiting to come out. I'm kind of waiting for him to have another game, another good game. But I'll give you guys kind of a little hint on that. I think it's almost time to look at Daniel Gazdag as someone that has a real possibility to take over the leading scorer of the Union really soon. I don't know if you guys have looked, but I think Sebastian Letou had 53 when all was said and done over all his competitions. I think Daniel Gazdag is around 90 or 39.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he's not very far behind. And that was a while ago that I last checked, so it could even be closer now at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's almost time to start thinking about Daniel Gazdag potentially being the best Union goal scorer of all time if he is able to stick around for this season, obviously, and next season as well. So yeah, that's something I've been kind of working on for a little bit and kind of waiting to release until Daniel has another brace or something. But yeah, I thought I would give you guys a little insight on that one.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, make sure to check it out. And, if you don't follow Jimmy, make sure you follow him. And and also we got some more guests coming up, and we'll be back probably again next Monday to recap the LA Galaxy. Hopefully it's a Union win.
Let's hope. Yep.
And until next time.
Yeah, make sure that you like and comment on this episode on, the way, and subscribe if you guys haven't. Thank you to everyone for listening. We appreciate people reach out with questions and interact with us. So keep that up. Like Kyle said, we're gonna have some guests coming up, so some good stuff. And let's hope we get 3 points.
Yep. So until next time, I'm Kyle.
I'm Jillian.
And we'll see you next time.